Good evening. We are still on the same topic that we treated yesterday. We want to go further today. The topic is lifting fingerprint from surfaces. Lifting fingerprint from surfaces. And last week we discussed on techniques or different techniques that you can use to lift fingerprint from surfaces. And we mentioned about 3 of them. The first one we mentioned is using fingerprint powder. Using fingerprint powder. The second one is a chemical method, and the third one is alternative light source. And last week we told us that there are 2 factors that will determine the kind of techniques to be used. The first one is the color of the surface, and the second one is whether the surface is porous or non-porous. And okay, I want to tell us the difference between porous and non-porous, and how it can affect the result of whatever we do. The porous surfaces, these are surfaces from materials that has holes or pores in them, which means when someone make fingerprint impression on these surfaces, the oil that form the fingerprint is capable of going inside the material through the pores that are in the material, which means some of the things that you are looking for might have been absorbed by the material. So in that case, it may be not practically possible to use some techniques. So in that there are some other surfaces that are porous. That are non-porous. Non-porous means that they don't have holes or pores in them. So the oil left behind, the oil or water or any other organic residue that is left behind after you might have make impression with your fingertip will not be absorbed. They will be on the surface. So you have almost everything on the surface. So it is easy to get such kind of a fingerprint from such kind of a surface. So in that case, if you are using technique like using powdering, that will be very, very easy. But if it is on non-porous, if it is on porous surface, using powder may not be adequate. So the kind of surface that you have or the kind of color will determine whether to use this kind of techniques or not. Let's move ahead. Last week we demonstrated how to use fingerprint powder to lift fingerprint from a surface, but that one was black powder. Now today we want to demonstrate how to use white fingerprint powder from a surface. We have a surface that is totally different from the one we used last class, so let's demonstrate this one today before we go ahead, before we move to the next thing. Yes, now this is a TV set. We have a TV set. Let's assume that a suspect came in and touched some item, and some of the item, one of the items that he touched was a TV set, and this is TV set. Now we want to process the surface, and the surface is non-porous. We want to process it for the fingerprint of the culprit. Yeah. Now, if you look at the screen, you can see some fingerprints. This is one, this is one, this is one, this is another one, this is another one, this is one, this one. So we can lift any of these. So we lift them, any of these or all of them can be lifted. We can lift them and use them. But when we lift them, let's lift one and see. You know, I told us that we should be using our PPE, that is personal protective equipment, like the nose mask. The nose mask must be there, and also you must use your you put on your nose mask, and the glove also must be worn in order for you not to lift, in order not to contaminate the evidence with your DNA, or even your own fingerprint will not be left on the items. So, let me put on my thing. Let's lift this one. So start from one end. So that has been lifted. We can still lift another one too. We can lift these two together at the same time. Because they are close to one another. Now, one thing I want us to take note, as we said last week, look at this, because it is white. It is white color powder that we use. We need to use a backing card that is colored, that is dark color, so that it can be seen. Assuming this is white, you won't see anything. So you use this kind of backing card that is dark in color, so that we are by time to form a sort of contrast, so that this can be seen very well. Now let's move ahead. Let me remove this. The type of surface that we have will determine the type of technique that we are going to use. And there are some other things that I will want to lay emphasis on today. These days, things are moving forward. The type of technique that we are going to use, you make sure that it's a kind of technique that is non-destructive. That is, if the piece of evidence or the object of interest on which you have the fingerprint is a kind of evidence that cannot be that may still be examined for DNA or some other evidence. Like, for example, if you have a document having fingerprint on it and you want to leave the fingerprint, the best thing is not to use any kind of techniques, any type of technique that will tamper with the handwriting there. Suppose they want to examine for handwriting or signature, so you don't use any techniques that will, for example, if you use some chemicals, if you use those chemicals on use chemical method, and any of the chemical method will make the chemical you use to enhance the fingerprint, it will make some of the characters of the handwriting that you want to conduct analysis on, will make them probably not to be visible or to change them, so that the document examiner will not be able to do his work. And if it is DNA they still want to examine it for, the examiner may not be able to do his work on it if you might have used fingerprint powder on it. So you have to consider, is this piece of evidence or this object of interest is still going to be examined by another examiner. So that one must be put into consideration. And these days, it is better because of the fact that the oil that is deposited can glow under ultraviolet light. So it is better to use ultraviolet light. You can buy one. Let there be one. There are some of them that are portable, that you don't need to be. They are not so big. Very portable, like this, that you can take to the crime scene, and in the lab you can have something that is bigger than this, or even like this one. So at a particular frequency, the oil that form the impression will glow. So as soon as that thing glows, you can see it clearly. You can see the impression, and you take your digital camera and snap it. In some cases, you may combine the finger, and you may use different filters to see the best picture. You see, with your filters that will control the amount of light that is going into the object, so that you can see clearly. It may be blue light that you combine with your the lens of your camera, yellow light, or any other one that will make it more visible. So you snap it, and it is better. It is discovered that nowadays it is better that you take the digital camera, the digital image of the impression, and send it to the system. If you have a database then it will be easy for it to be to search for it and have a match. But where there's no database, like many of countries of the nation, especially in this part of the world, in Africa here, where you don't have database for search. I'm talking about a database that is full functional. Then all you need to do is use manual. But that manual, you are going to use your system. You use your system. It's still, you can't call it totally automatic. So far, it is it is not going to do it by itself. Then you can see it can still be called partial manual. That is, you send it to the system. That digital image is sent to the system, and the other fingerprint that you want to compare it with, you send the two of them to the system. Then you begin to use the system to do the work, to do the analysis. You analyze it. You begin to mark the Garton point after you might have done your work on separating, on categorizing it, whether they are of the same group or not. If they are of the same group, if they are not of the same group, then there's no need matching them, trying to comparing them. If they are of the same group, then you go ahead, you go further to look at the count, the reach count. You look at the reach count. Then apart from that one, you look at the Garton points. The Garton points now will be used to determine whether they match or not. So now, apart from that one, okay, before I move further, in the next class we start the rematching. We do that one practically, and you see. Now there are some other things that can be used, as you said, apart from using powder. I said chemical method. In chemical method, you use something like a super glue or nihydrin. All these can be used, but they can only be used if that document, the porous surface, it may not be document alone, it may be some other thing. If that item is still going to be examined by another examiner for another evidence, like maybe the DNA or for handwritten, then it is better not to use chemical method at all. As you heard it from me, it's better not to use the chemical method. Then now, I said the best thing is to use alternative light source. Then you snap it. But that is if you are using, if that piece of item is not going to be examined by another person. The best is to use alternative light source. At times you may combine with a little powder. Then if that item is not going to be examined by another examiner, you can still use your powder, either the white powder or the black powder or any other color, depending on the surface. Then after enhancing it, after you finish enhancing the fingerprint, that is after making it visible, then now you can go ahead and snap it. You snap it and send to the system. But one thing is this: it is better you snap it with color, then later, before you begin to do work on it, examine it, then you convert it to gray. Just convert it to gray, so that will give you a contrast that you need. You just capture it with colored. Capturing it with color will ensure that every detail is captured. Then you convert it to gray. You can use some software like Adobe Photoshop, to convert it to gray before you can begin to do the analysis. So this will really help, and by the grace of God, next class, yes, that's going to be next week, we start the comparison. We do it practically, and you can see, and we are going to compare many fingerprints, and some of the work that has been done in the time past. We use it to teach us what we're supposed to know. We are going to stop here this evening. Please go through the lecture note. And also through this video, and make sure that you do the assignment and send it back. Okay, bye bye. Thank you. Till next class. That will be next Wednesday. I mean next Monday.